Good evening, everyone, and happy Thursday. If you are a regular viewer of the stream, this might look a little bit different to you. The one and only Joshua Rodriguez, also known as the Cherry Drank, is on vacation. He's in Vegas, probably torturing some penny slots right about now. So I got thrown under the bus, and I'm running the show. So this ought to be highly entertaining. I apologize beforehand about me screwing up things because I'm going to screw up some things. And yeah, it should be a fun time. We're going to be covering the Keeneland all-turf pick 3 sequence on Saturday, covering most of the pick 5, the late sequence, which has a couple pretty good stakes races, and also covering one really, really cool stakes race at Oaklawn. So, stay tuned, and we should have some good stuff. And, I realize we lost Josh, but, in keeping the Q factor high, we also have some one and only Mr. Brian Duransky. How's it going, Bri?
I lost my pants.
Oh no.
I don't know what happened, but I want to show you something cool. See that?
Yeah, I see that.
Yeah. How much did that horse pay?
A lot. Like $50 or something. Yeah, I paid a lot.
I may be the fattest, but I had a winner.
I mean, I do throw this up to the broken clock thing. If you just randomly pick numbers, occasionally one of them's going to win, right?
How's that working for swiping left and right for you?
Pretty poorly, actually. I do a lot of swiping right, and everyone else sees me and swipes left. And I really can't blame them because I am just not. Bald ginger. Nobody wants to deal with this shit.
Did you tell him you almost won the grade 1 gamble qualifier today? That might be. Is that your opening line?
So I need to put that in my profile. Is what you're saying? They'll come flocking.
I think so. Degenerate horse player seeks. Oh, what do you go with there? Low self-esteem, single mom.
Low self-esteem, single mom. Yeah, that's yeah. That needs a money influx or something. Yeah,
cheers.
Yeah, that's what. Cheers to. Oh yeah, cheers to that. And speaking of cheers, I heard somebody's been having a good evening already. So we have the one and only Mr. Caleb Knight. Caleb, how's it going, buddy?
Going good, guys. Glad to Jay saying it's a 3-beer night. I'd say you're gonna need more than 3. But yeah, it's going good. It's had a volunteering event down in New Orleans today. So anything in New Orleans, including volunteering, typically involves a couple of drinks. So I'm all loosened up and ready to roll.
I just tried to type in YouTube so I could see what Jay said, and I got the word U and the letter P popped up. I don't know what happened. I don't know what happened.
It's nice to see Caleb is preemptively prepared with the hat. He's ready to go. And yeah, no, this ought to be highly entertaining. Let me see if I can actually make a past performance appear here.
I realized that I went way more upper body today than I usually do. I'm letting the
Did you?
I'm letting the guys see everything right now.
Oh! Do we really want to be showing that?
I don't know. Let's poll the audience because last week we had a J and a J fight over who is sexier, and we got no emails to the ontherwronglead.com email. So I'm not sure. We can't judge.
We can't judge. Okay. So. Hopefully that's big enough so that he can see it. We're going to start off with the. I'm just jumping topics, Brian. I'm going to let that one
you
go.
Put that in your Tinder profile.
Yeah. I hope it's big enough everybody can see it. That's going to get them coming for you, buddy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Into that, Caleb has a drink. Excellent.
We're
starting off on a good theme here.
I'm just glad Caleb said that instead of me, because if it was me, it wouldn't have been as funny. But Caleb says it instead. I dropped in hilarious.
I knew you were thinking it.
Oh God. Oh man. Yeah. So starting off here with with race 5 at Keeneland on Saturday. This is the start of the all-turf pick 3. These have been paying amazingly well, unless you played it today, where I think the favorites won all 3 legs, and it honestly still paid pretty well for what it was. We're going, what are we doing? Going a mile on the turf, $110,000 allowance, N1X, one of these big money allowances. I thought this was a really salty field. There's some fairly interesting horses in here. I don't think there's any horses that fall into the, amazing last year over the top. But, I thought there was some quality in here. So it's at least a very competitive race with some horses coming out of better. Your favorite on the morning line is the number 3 Seasons, Josie Carroll with Tyler Gaff up. And I guess, when I first looked at this race, things that sort of jumped out at me where I was trying to understand what the pace scenario looked like in here. And, Brian, you got any sort of a feel for how this sets up?
At first glance, I want to think your early leader is somewhere in between the 2, the 7, and the 8. I mean, if I had to guess, I'd say the 2, because the post position might be the leader here. The bad thing is that's velocity alone. It's kind of like a pace figure. Looking at the running lines, it's kind of hard to see anybody inside. I mean, if you look at the last out, you say, okay, is James Graham going to take the 1 up the rail? I have to toss out that race, but I see what you're getting at. And full disclaimer, I didn't handicap this before the race because I was busy making drinks back here. But it's one of those things. I think the 8 has some speed. If you look back like 3 or 4 races, the 8 has shown speed. And then over the winter, Churchill and Gulfstream really didn't take to the mile on dirt, came back on turf at Gulfstream, and just it was a no factor, right? So I kind of like this move coming back to Keeneland on Saturday. Might be well meant, poorly placed. Arnold's usually has his horses ready to fire, but the inside pace picture is what's going to question that, right? I don't know who goes from the inside. Caleb, you got any idea here on the inside pace?
Yeah, so I actually saw the race pretty close to you, Brian. I did kind of think the 8 might be your de facto leader. He is coming out of a race where didn't do really any running, but I'm just kind of choosing to maybe ignore that race. I don't know what happened there. But the horse made the lead in her other turf route starts, and she does have a couple of turf sprints in there, which she didn't get the lead, but obviously that's not the scenario today. I think she probably gets the lead here, and I think despite the fact that it's been tough to win on the lead at Keeneland so far on the turf routes, I think that she's still a horse I'm interested in. I think a horse like the 1, James Graham is a pretty aggressive rider and breaking from the rail. This is not a horse I'm interested in, but I think this is a horse that, to Brian's question, is one of those inside horses that could play a role in how the pace sets up. I'd probably be surprised to see the 2 or the 3 really do too much on the lead here. I guess the 2 might have a chance stretching out from those sprints, but seems to really have found her niche more as a closer. So I'd be surprised to get her too involved. But I did like the 8 for all the reasons that you kind of alluded to, Brian.
No love for the 2 getting speed with your favorite trainer there?
Well, no love. At 12-1. And I wasn't crazy about the short prices in this race. So 12-1. If you wanted to go there, I wouldn't, talk you off of it. But when horses come to the States and then don't win for a long time, I tend to kind of get over them pretty quick.
So horses that come to the States and don't win for a long time. Hey, Mark, what price does the 9 go off at?
9. Considering how Flavian's been riding, you probably get 4-1 on that horse. I think that horse probably ends up taking money. I think the morning line in this race is fairly poor. I don't really think that the 3 takes that much money. They have the 3 is at 2-1. I just actually don't see it. Horse really hasn't done much. It has run okay, but sort of just been involved and hasn't had that real jump out race since the maiden special. And I realized getting all the class relief in the world, but at some point loves to kind of be involved somewhere near the finish, but I don't know. I don't know if she'll be as short as she is. And I think horses like the 9, I think horses like the 8, who you guys mentioned, will all sort of take some money in here. So, where did you guys end up landing here? I mean, personally, I think Seasons makes some sense. Don't dislike her. Wouldn't be a shock if she won. I thought she was a little interesting in here, and also, thought the 5, the Chad Brown entry in here made some sense as well. Again, another horse getting some class relief off from that Wild Appleseed, and down at Belmont but she's been off a really long time. Chad is fairly fine with this sort of an angle, but I thought this was kind of race where you could make a case for either of the two favorites, or you could be 6 deep and probably pull Brian and pull up 20-1 out. That is also fairly likely to win in here.
It's funny you say that, because in this race, I thought the two favorites probably looked the best or the most logical. But to steal Caleb's line, is it a fake Chad? The horse is 1 for 5 lifetime, right? So. I'm glad Jay sees something in the 2, even though Caleb didn't, so I feel better. You know what? I'm going to take my vote back. That is the handsome Jay. The other Jay is a big Jay. At a price, I kind of like the 7 here at 10-1 in the morning line. The horse ran it, best at Keeneland at a maiden 79, then won at Churchill at a maiden 1,000. Got in some pretty weird spots with Florent and then Jaramillo at Gulfstream Park at 7.5 furlongs. And it's one of those horses that might improve coming back to Keeneland. I mean, this horse has traveled a lot. Granted, February was 2 months ago, but an optional claimer at Gulfstream Park was a no factor. He got no closer than 3.5 at lengths at the finish. And there's an aggressive spot for Mark Cassidy to put this filly. And I kind of like the aggressive spot. She, you look at the workouts here, she's working out well for a turf horse, at 4 furlongs. So the aggressive spotting, he might see something in the way her cycle is right now where he wants to be aggressive. He throws Luis aboard, and 10-1 here. I'll take that if I can beat the fake Chad.
So let me get this straight. You're taking the Mark Cassie horse. Cassie's 0 for 17 on the meet, only had 2 horses even hit the board. I mean, his barn has been horrible. Absolutely stinking up the place. I realize he gets Sayas up, but I mean, there's really no recency here. Don't you? I don't know. I mean, I don't hate anybody for taking a 10-1, but I think I need a little more than 10-1 here to be excited about your 7.
So let me circle back here. We'll let Caleb talk eventually, and then he'll tell us why we're both wrong. But
he normally does, and he's normally right.
I mean, Cassie's barn is not firing well, but when I look at this race, the 3 and the 5 are going to take a ton of money. I would love to make an argument for the 9. I think the 9's can get bet down to like 3-1. At 3-1, I don't want the 9. If I was going to play a horizontal or something here, I'm going to throw the 8 as what might be the pay, the lone speed. And I'm going to try and beat Nevisian Sunrise and Seasons, because this could be a leg where you get paid. So, I'd look at the 8. I'd look a little bit of the 7. The 2, as Jay said, coming back to a normal surface. And, even the 1 I knocked in the intro because, coming out of the Chad barn, the Ignacio barn has been really well. Ignacio did well at Arlington Park, the Starbucks over there. And now it has to find somewhere for his horses to run. And, it wouldn't surprise me if Graham isn't a little aggressive like Caleb mentioned and this horse fires. But for me, I'd probably toss the 3 and the 5 and take 4 or 5 horses here and hope that I'm right.
Yeah, don't hate that take.
Yeah, this was a tough race for me because, I kind of agree with Mark in that I'm not going to beat up a 10-1 or probably longer, but it's hard for me to back anything out of certain barns or ridden by certain jockeys, given the way that it's, shaken out so far this meet, looking at you, Julian. But, I think that for me, I mean, I landed on the horse we sort of talked about earlier, which was the 8, Joy of Painting. I think this horse gets a good pace setup. I would like to see the horse on the lead, but I don't think this is a need to lead horse either by any stretch. So if the horse ends up sitting second, if maybe the 2 Lubna decides to go, or the 1 Infinite Potential, I don't think that's really a problem. I'm trying to avoid any deep closures in here because I don't really see any real speed signed on. I think Joy of Painting gets a good trip. I think the last 2 races look worse than they really are. This has never been a dirt horse, so you can completely toss the race 2 back. And the race last out, I mean, this horse was extremely wide, going 1 mile and 1/16 at Gulfstream. Just didn't really show up that day. I mean, that's not totally uncommon for Some of those wide trips at Gulfstream can be pretty brutal. Julian was up that day, who has not been riding particularly well. And that race, I know she ran 10th by 13, but that race has come back pretty strong. 3 horses came back to win next out, including the second and third place finisher there. So I think that was a lively event there. I think that Joy of Painting gets a good pace set up here. And some of those back races, especially the one at Keeneland, 3 back, do kind of fit in this field. So I'm not totally against the favorites here, but they're not necessarily standouts. They're both coming off of pretty significant layoffs. And there's enough reasons for me to be a little bit skeptical that I don't really want to settle for a short price. I did look at the 9, who Brian mentioned. I kind of agree that horse is going to get bet down, just given the fact that Flavian Pratt's been riding so well. That horse will make my tickets, but it's not one that I'm going to be excited to bet at 7-2 or 4-1 or anything like that. But for my top pick, I did end up on the 8, Joy of Painting.
Yeah. Sorry. I was going to say, HTR is not out yet, but if it is out tomorrow morning and I look at it, for those that don't know, HTR software that I like to use sometimes, the 5 is going to be classified as not passed a course in the stretch in a long time. Chronic hanger, right? Look at what this horse has done. And at 9-5, you're taking a horse that hasn't passed a horse in the stretch in 4 of the 5 outings. How can you settle for that price here? I mean, I know we're beating that to death. It's just one of those things. If you're watching, this is the kind of favorite that I look to beat, because I can make plenty of reasons of why this horse won't win at what's going to be 9 or 7-5.
Yeah, and to add to that, I would make the same case for the 3. I would honestly, when I looked at this race, I thought the 3 and the 5 were very much the same horse.
Mm-hmm.
They're horses that both broke their maiden special. Whatever. I mean, I guess the 5 took 3 starts, was really close to the first 2 seasons, broke it first to offering, and both of them like to hit the board. They just, neither one of them really love to win, and this is a fairly salty allowance field. I have no fault at trying to get around, getting around the 2 favorites, and I do tend to agree with Caleb. I think if Joy, I don't want Joy of Painting on a lead, because so far turf routes at Keeneland, a horse has yet to wire a turf route.
Correct.
So I don't want a horse that's on the front. I think the 7 probably ends up inheriting the lead, especially with Sayers, who's a little more aggressive. And I think, Benji can kind of just stalk off, press, be a little bit more tactical. And hopefully, this is the type that, can have a little turn of foot in the lane. Again, the horse is 1 for 11 though. So I wouldn't fault anybody here for going any other directions. And I don't want to beat this one to death, but you guys have any other final thoughts?
Alice Beckman gets 111 pounds. That's all.
Yeah. Okay. I thought weight didn't matter.
Not for me, big boy.
So we're going to jump around a little bit here. I thought race 6 was pretty terrible in the pick 5. It's a maiden special weight. I had no idea. It's one of these Keeneland dart throwing fests. So you can hit the all in there in the pick 5 or something. I mean, it's just a tough race. So I was going to hop over that second leg of the turf pick 3, race 7. Going a mile 16th on, on the turf. And, when I first capped this race, the thing that really jumped out at me is who ends up being your favorite here, because I could make a case for about 4 or 5 in here ending up with favoritism in this race. Brian, what you thinking here?
Just looking at it, obviously the entry on the 1's going to take a ton of money. Walsh and Tyler, they seem to take money. And if you're a Midwest player, you're watching this 5 games mission for DeVoe and Bashiza, 3-1 in the morning line. If you play fairgrounds in the winter, Bashiza rides the turf really well. And I'll be honest, I haven't paid that close attention in the way he's been riding here at Keeneland. I've been a little preoccupied with, life. But it's one of those things where he seems to manage to get a horse up that may or may not belong there. So, I think between the 1 and the 5, you're talking your morning line favorites are going to come from those 2.
I would agree with Brian. I think the 5 probably goes off favorite. That's, kind of who I landed on here. But I think that just the 5 is really the class of the field here, kind of dropping back into allowance company after banging heads with some of the best 3-year-old fillies in the division last year. Getting some class relief, even dropping out of that listed stakes at Fairgrounds last out. I would think the 5 goes off the favorite, but I do think the 1 would be A pretty reasonable second choice, assuming both halves of the entry run, because you are kind of getting two horses that both look like they have a chance in here, assuming that they both run. Gaffleon is listed up for both, so I'm not sure if they're going to scratch one or if they're going to have a jockey change late. But
Right.
or maybe my form's a little outdated. Did they change that?
No, I've got the same thing.
Okay, so yeah, I see Gaffleon up for both. So
Yeah,
if they scratch one of the two entries, I think Games Mission is certainly your favorite. If they both run, I could see them being pretty similar in price.
I cannot. Sorry. Did you look at the 7? Did you look at the 7, Caleb?
I did. What am I missing about the 7?
Look a little bit harder.
Vicky All, G. Watts Humphrey.
Oh yeah, there it is.
I do love me some G. Watts Humphrey at Keeneland, but I also hate me some Vicky Oliver in graded stakes races.
Yeah.
Well, this isn't a graded stakes, I guess. This is a an NX3 allowance. So
Yeah, but an Oliver Bejarano combo. I mean that's got to be a pretty low ROI long term, right?
Believe
I
it or
have no hate for
not,
Bejarano. I think he does well in the circuits he rides, but I do think he gets kind of exposed.
I like Raphael at like Indiana Grand.
Yeah, he's excellent in Indiana Grand or even like Turfway sometimes. But I mean, I looked at that horse, and at 7-2, that horse doesn't do anything for me. I mean, beating up on some pretty suspect fields at Ellis Park and Colonial, and then horse had no chance in the Queen Elizabeth Cup. So even if you kind of forgive that one, other starts that just weren't all that competitive, in my opinion. So I don't like the races he's been in or she's been in. So that's not a horse I want as a 7-2.
And that figure at Colonial has got to be erroneous, right? He runs a career best at Colonial and then by several, and then comes out last fall at Keeneland. Oh, look at me now. So yeah, it's very inflated figures, I think, in that Keeneland race.
The time form fig is a little more realistic, I think. It's kind of right in line, basically having that horse have run the same race the last 3 starts, which I think makes sense.
I was just wondering, did the horse just really not take to the yielding turf in the QE2? And, maybe this is a horse that has slightly improving form. If you sort of draw a line through the QE2, it's just sort of a steady, slow improvement in form. And Vicky Oliver and Bejarano are 11% together and with a fairly decent ROI for such a low percentage connection. He rode 141 mounts for Vicky Oliver last year. Well, I guess that must be in 2021 and 2022. So a lot of sample size and a fairly not horrible ROI given just the straight raws for Vicky Oliver, who's not a crazy high percentage trainer.
I'm going to throw. Are we doing picks now? I forgot.
Yeah. How about it?
Okay, so I'm going to go with my favorite jockey, not named Corey Lannery. I like the 8.
I knew it was going to be Landeris.
I mean, it was one of the two.
Listen, this is an interesting spot, right? You want to, so last race, I take the coldest trainer, east of the Mississippi, and Mark Cassey. Now I go to Ian Wilkes, who's 0 for 18 with only 4 horses in the money, but and a 0 for jockey and Chris, who's 0 for 7. This is one of those races where why can't he blow it up? This race is not that impressive. You've got the 5 who's going to take, the money as the favorite most likely, and it's Sherry DeVoe and Adam Bashiza. So to me, it's like, let me find something else here. I don't want any part of Flippant on the 7. So I look at Market Rumor, and this horse ran well in Colonial, the same day as Flippant, right? So you can, if you believe in comparing, apples to oranges there, you can at least say, okay, the track was fair. Here's how they both did on that day, blah, blah, blah. But the 8 is very consistent if you look at Briz. And I'm not sure what it looks like on DRF there, but on Briz, the last 4, this horse has ran up right about a 90. Horse sits, 3 to 5 lengths off, comes rushing late. And in this kind of race, not really a one-run closer, kind of sit back a little bit. And to me, if you've got the, a little bit of the 4 or the 9 or the 1 or the 11, if the 11 doesn't scratch out way out there, why can't the horse in that second flight come running? And I know for a fact that my buddy Chris is going to find the rail at some point, and he's going to wait for the opening that may or may not come at 8-1. Oh, this is ridiculous, Jay. No, this is okay. We make fun of Jared Bush for being Caleb's picks. Now, Now, Jay and I have been on the same horse now a couple times.
I mean, should we just get Jay on stream instead? I mean, you're taking all his picks. You might as well.
Well, we should just make this next stream like next week with Mark, Jared, and Jay. Just leave it at that.
Yeah, I'm gonna hop over to my top choice in here, who is the number 3, Sweet Enough. I almost wanted to ask Caleb if he could pick who I was going to be on, because I knew he would know that this was my horse. Roger Outfield has done really well with all his U.S. With all of, I should say, these types. He's been really live at Keeneland.
Cheryl Spite,
pretty well. Yeah, but Cheryl Spite would be one of them.
Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine. And this horse was pretty okay in the UK. And if you look at the figs that were, the European time form figs, you do the translation, this horse should be a major player there. He sees fit to go get a rad to ride this horse. And honestly, this is a horse that is 3-6 lifetime on turf, 3-6 in the winner's circle lifetime on turf. Again, you can play the game of, well, how really good was that company? It's not like this horse was in graded stakes in the UK, but ran pretty decent. And I think this horse is a major player in this field. But my only concern is, how do you get that 4-1? I really worry that this horse ends up being, 3-1 range, 5-2 range, and therefore the value kind of goes away. But I'll end on my top pick. I also ended up with the 1 and the 5 that you guys both talked about, and I was a little surprised nobody has gone really outside to either the 9 or the 10. I figured somebody would. Brian probably looking for a price would look for a little bit of Pratt Cox or
Really?
Pasta on the outside. Yeah,
I want no Eddie Pasta. This guy's done nothing since he came east of the Rocky Mountains. Why do I want Eddie Pasta?
Yeah, I know Eddie Pasta. Okay.
Yeah. So this was a tricky race to a little bit, but I didn't want to overthink it. I looked at Mark's 3. Yeah, I did kind of figure that's who Mark would land on. I wouldn't be aggressively against that horse, but I think she's going to be too short of a price for me to take in this field. It kind of looks like the wheels fell off in the last 2 races. Leaving the John Godson's barn to go to Roger Atfield. I mean, I don't know that I would consider that necessarily a positive. Horse has been relatively campaign shorter for most of her career, and I tend to think Atfield reaches for Saez for most of his mounts. I don't see any history with Irad. I mean, it's never a negative thing, but it is just something I kind of noted to see Saez end up on a 20-1 shot instead. So at 4-1, that's just too short for me to go there. But I landed on at 4-1 versus 3-1. I'll take the 5 all day and twice on Sunday. I think Games Mission is just the horse to beat here. She has some excuses in her last couple. I mean, in her last race, she was just maybe a little short off the layoff, and was closing pretty stoutly there. Should be more fit here, second off the bench. And then in her last start in the Winter Memories at Aqueduct, I mean, she stumbled out of the break, made a big wide move after passing pretty much everybody, and just missed to a couple of good horses, including Plum Ali, who came back to win at Aqueduct last Saturday. And then the prior 2 races before that, I think, were still too far. She's not really a 1.25 mile horse, at least not at this point in her career. So I think this 1.16 is exactly how far she wants to go. I think she's getting some much needed class relief here. There should be more fit second off the bench. I think Games Mission just makes kind of all the sense. And if you're looking at time form, and I think if she runs any of her last 3 or 4 races, I think she'll be very tough to beat here. She's not a horse that really throws clunkers, so to speak. So I think she's a pretty safe bet here. I did kind of look outside to one of the horses Mark mentioned, which was the 9, Saranya. I can probably make a bigger case for this horse than I can the 10, even with Rispoli. If you look at this horse as one of those examples of a horse kind of getting back to what she wants to do, what she's good at, caught yielding turf last time and was probably in over her head anyway, so I can kind of forgive that one. Then she, sprinted at Kentucky Downs, which not all horses can really handle. But then you go back a little further. I mean, yeah, the company was certainly a little bit softer at Canterbury, but she wins a stakes race there, and then doesn't embarrass herself at all in the Grade 2 Appellation against Jouster, Gift List, and Plum Ali. I mean, 3 pretty nice fillies. So I thought she was a horse that Cox reaches for Pratt here. They've been pretty outstanding so far this meet. That's a horse I could make a pretty strong argument for as well.
You're not wrong. I liked the Malfi Princess for a long time. I thought she was going to be, a really good racehorse, and that's who Sayonara beat, 3 back. So the quote unquote, you want to say it, Mark, the back class, if you will.
There's a little back class there. Okay, so I'm going to throw up a little bit out of chat here. The one and only DJ Bet Vasquez said, if you had $50 to bet on one horse this weekend, which horse is that? So we can either all throw them out or just maybe loop back to that one when we get to your $50 win bet horse, because mine's going to be a little bit further along. Because I think that's actually a really good question, because that's a little bit more like, who do you like in this race versus, hey, if I was playing real money and I'm a smart handicapper and only picking a couple of spots on this card, where do I choose those spots? So I really like the question.
Yeah, I'm not that far along to be able to answer it yet.
Let's I mean, I haven't capped the whole day, right? I've only looked at the races we're covering for the sequence, but if I get 3-1 on Games Mission, that's my bet, without a doubt. If I get 9-5 or something like that, I'm probably going to look elsewhere. But I think 3-1 is more than fair on Games Mission in this spot. She'd probably be like a single A for me in most of my sequence.
Yeah, to DJ's question, mine will come in race 10 at Keeneland. So I'll wait till we get there to mention the horse.
The horse is going to be 3-2, DJ. Don't bother.
It will not be 3-2. It will. I guarantee you, it'll at least be like 4-5. Okay. So I've thrown one to both of you guys already. Unless do we have anything more on that prior race before I hop ahead?
I'm going to say it here just because I want to. I think the 6 is going to take more money than the morning line is going to dictate.
I think so.
Agreed.
I think that 21 morning line is ridiculous here. And the horse ran pretty well at Churchill, 4 back, 3 back at Gulfstream Park, but only lost by a length and 3/4. I don't know how 20-1 happened here. I mean, in this field, there's 11 or 12 horses, so maybe that's just law. It just happened. But I thought that horse, at a fair price, would be like 10-1, but 20-1 just seems crazy to me.
Yeah, I agree with you. This feels like an awful line. I had this horse as a B, and literally on my form I wrote down 20-1 with like 3 question marks. So, yeah, I think this horse will be a use for me, but I don't think you'll get 20-1.
Now, this would be a good this horse will probably be played in the Keeneland Grade 1 Gamble all weekend long.
Yeah, that's a very good G1 Gamble horse. Not a horse I want any part of, but I completely agree with you. It's very much you kind of draw a line to that last one. Something happened. Also, this is a lot of class relief. And you go back again, another class, Brian, you might say, or a horse that you might say has some back class. So cool. Anyone else in here we need to talk about?
Class doesn't matter. Sorry, this is Josh from Vegas.
Until it doesn't matter until it does, right?
If you guys are in Vegas in the corner of the Strip, that's Josh. He's known as Jessica today, but say hi for us.
All righty. I will hopping onto the Ben Ali, going a mile and 1/8 on the main here. $300,000 purse. Interesting field. And I'll start off with I know I'm the resident chalk eating weasel. So I really don't know how Warrant loses this race. I think Warrant is just a ton faster than everybody else in this field. Horse is super, super classy. I realized last major win was Oklahoma Derby at Remy. But has been very involved, has run some real big figures. You're getting Pratt Cox again, which has been a stupid combo. So honestly, the past year and so far this Keeneland meet, I mean, they're hitting at 60% this meet and 43% over the past year. So really, really good connections. And probably a little bit of the cutback helps this one out a little bit. I think this is probably a better distance than going 1.25 miles. So I landed on Warrant here. How do you guys think Warrant doesn't win? What's the scenario where somebody beats him?
I struggled really hard to determine what to do with Warrant. If I don't know how I guess you're the buyers up, but I mean, as far as time form goes, I mean, if you believe any of his last 3 races, he looks unbeatable in this spot. Yeah. For me, I'm always kind of a skeptic of certain figs, and as much as I do generally trust time form, I mean, I find California figs typically come back a little on the fast side. I'm always skeptical of a big fig and a blowout defeat like he earned in Louisiana Stakes race 2 back. And then the Remington fig, I'm not sure what to make out of that. So, I mean, this horse is a single or not. And I had a hard time figuring out what to do with him in this spot. So, I mean, I wouldn't fault anyone for singling this horse. But at the same time, he is a bit of a tricky call for me because I thought there were 2 or 3 alternatives that looked pretty interesting. I'm not sure what Brian thought.
Dude, I agree. I can make a pretty. If you look at Briz here, and I got Briz in front of me, the 5 and the 3 aren't that far apart, right? But one's Brian Hernandez and Michael Stidham, one's Brad Cox and Flavian. For me, that this race came down to they're going a mile in the 8th, and just a quick picture. What exactly is the pace picture, right? And I say that because we've seen Flavian ride very smart since he came to Keeneland. And so when I look at this race, I don't see, if the 2 takes to the surface with James Graham as opposed to Velasquez, in the Harlan Holiday, can the 2 go wire to wire here? I want to make that argument. 9-2 feels a little short in this spot to make that argument, but you're talking about a horse that is 11 for 16 in the money. Last year was in the money, 7 out of 8 times. This is a professional racehorse, and Josie Carroll probably not the best trainer in this circuit, right? Not going to get the respect, but this horse, man, if this horse floats up to like 5 or 6 to 1, I think I want every bit of this horse as a possible lone speed candidate. I don't know.
I agree with you, Brian.
I was just going to say though, from I guess your scenario is that Mighty Heart goes to the lead and wires the field. Has that been happening on dirt? Because if it has, I don't. I realized speed's been absolutely grim death on the turf, but it's been better on the dirt, but it still hasn't been that good in dirt routes. So I like the horse. I just think the run style, it really is, against the horse. I think somebody like Mighty Heart, and I think you also have the 7, who I see Scalding as being a little faster, but is outside drawn. So I'm not really sure who ends up getting the lead. And I think that, his setup, it allows Warrant to set that pocket trip, going to give Pratt all the options. He's going to be able to allow the two of them to go to the front end, and he's going to be able to make his choices from there. Does he want to sit? How close does he want to be? He can play the pace, and obviously he's been riding really well, really kind of has a feel for the track. So, maybe somebody can wire this, but I would assume, Flavian's going to set a pretty nice trip in here.
So let me ask you this: if you like Scalding at 5 to 1, how do you not like Tartufo at 20 to 1? Very similar run styles here. Obviously one's Castellano versus Bejarano, but similar run styles. Scalding might be a little bit closer, right? But
I think Scalding is 15 points faster on time form.
Scalding is way, way, way faster. I think Scalding is way more forwardly placed. I think Tartufo ends up behind Warrant. I think they're going to try to 1-run close this, I would imagine. If you look at that win 2 back, he came from 5 by 4.5. I would imagine you're going to get a similar trip to that. So that 1-run big move, type setup. Maybe that works. Maybe you can get it done. I do prefer that run style over Scalding's, but I think I just think Ward's a better animal in here.
Oh, I get it. I just, looking at it right here on Briz has them a whole lot closer than what DRF has them there, and probably with time form. That last race, the 6 ran 97 and 93, the 7 ran at 97 and 93. But when you look at the pace, the last out for Tartufo at Turfway Park, I can excuse that early pace figure that Briz gave it because it's Turfway Park. But you go 2 back when that horse is at Gulfstream at a mile, and Scalding was a mile 16th a mile 16th at Tampa. Very similar E1, E2 type there. At 20 to 1, 4 times the price. I'd be hard pressed to believe that horse is going to be a 1-run closer with Raphael aboard.
Yeah, you've kind of sold me on the 6 a little bit, Brian. But I don't think that's a horse that would be ever better than like a C on my ticket. But if you kind of look back at some of the the Gulfstream race came back a little bit slow on time form 2 back, but he does have a race at Churchill where he just lost to Cody's Wish, who's a pretty nice allowance horse that does kind of fit in here, and I could see the argument that he moves forward here. It's not a horse that I think would ever be better than a C for me, but I could see it.
Go
ahead.
No, it's one of those horses that when he beats you, you look at it and say, "Oh, I see it."
Mm-hmm.
Right? But how many times does that actually happen?
I think that's a good contest play or something in that. The horse, if you're really looking for a price. But this is not a horse I can build my day around. I'm a little surprised, and I'm breaking my own damn rule here, but a couple people in chat, Road Warrior as well as Jay, are on the horse I landed on, which was the 7 Scalding, who we've talked about a little bit. And anyone who knows me knows I typically hate these Tampa horses. They've not done well at Keeneland. I generally don't think they're good.
How'd that work for you last weekend, Caleb? How'd that go last what was it, Saturday?
Was that Cheryl Spite? Was she a Tampa horse?
She was a Tampa horse. Yeah,
that was awful because I needed the Chad Brown horse for all the money. But
you bet a Chad Brown horse at Tampa. I thought I knew you better than this.
It wasn't at Tampa. It was at Keeneland.
Oh yeah.
But at any rate, I watched the replay of that Challenger Stakes that Scalding ran in because I know Cody's Wish is a pretty nice horse. Dynamic One is a very fine Grade 3 kind of runner. And I'm like, well, how'd this horse, did he just trip out or kind of how'd he win? And I have to admit, I mean, even though he came out of some cheaper races, this horse was game as hell. I mean, he got eye to eye with Cody's Wish. And I mean, the margin of victory doesn't look like much, but Cody's Wish was never getting by Scalding in that race. I mean, this horse still had a ton left in the tank. I mean, he starts drawing away again once they get eye to eye, and he gallops out, 5 or 6 lengths in front. And I thought that was just a really impressive effort. I feel like there's more in the tank there. And he does have a win at Gulfstream, so I don't think he's just a one-dimensional Tampa specialist. He doesn't need the lead as he sat off the pace in his last 2. I think this horse just absolutely trips out, sits behind Mighty Heart, who I do kind of like a little bit, to Brian's point, but I'm not sure he's just quite this good. And Scalding, I think, just gets an absolute dream trip in that stocking pocket that has been working pretty well at Keeneland all summer. So if you can get around Warren, I think Scalding is who I would do it with.
So a horse that took 3 races to break maiden at Gulfstream on a sloppy track, then goes to Tampa and wins twice. Now comes to Keeneland. I mean, this horse's win 2 races back was an optional 16,000. He wins a G3 at Tampa. That's like a G5 in Keeneland.
It is. No, I agree with you. But I mean, your favorite in here is a horse whose best win came at Remington. So I mean, this isn't exactly the strongest Grade 3. I mean, Proxy is going to take all kinds of money, I think, as well, who people are talking about. I'm not sure if he just might be a bit of a hanger at this point, or maybe just, Olympiad's an excellent horse as well. I mean, maybe just not that good. But I think Scalding gets overlooked, and I think you get a price, which is kind of why I'm leaning that direction. I think you'll get every bit of 5 to 1.
Okay. Sorry, Mark.
I was going to say, you do have to love a horse that likes winning, and Scalding clearly likes winning. The 3 straight says a lot, and obviously, this is a tougher race. But no, I had Scalding as a B, and I wouldn't fault anybody for being more aggressive to Scalding in here.
Really?
Yeah,
you can look at the connections as well. I mean, Shug is not a guy that wins first out. Pretty much ever.
No.
He wins along slowly. This horse has clearly wanted more ground, so he finally gets to stretching them around 2 turns. I mean, I think you factor all those things in, and you can kind of be more forgiving of the slow start to the career.
Scalding feels like the type of horse when he walks into the bar, you cover your girlfriend's drink so a pill doesn't go into it. He's that back alley horse who, no, thank you, at 5 to 1. And like you said, he's going to take money. Okay, fine. So do you really want this horse at 3 to 1 in this spot? To me, I would rather let this horse beat me, because we know how Tampa shippers do. Tampa shippers do not run well, and I don't have the stat. Mark, what do Tampa shippers do in this meet at Keeneland? Are they well placed?
With ones not named Cheryl Spite, they do pretty abysmal.
Okay. There was another. I think that stat's kind of been, I won't say debunked because it was legitimate, but there was a couple Tampa shippers that won. I remember in the last race of the day, maybe last week, there was a 4-horse in the final race and a maiden race that was a Bejarano horse that won, that was a Tampa shipper. So they've had a couple of winners at prices.
But you also have to remember there's been a change this winter at Tampa, and that's that Gulfstream has added synthetic, so there's less turf racing. So what you've seen is turf horses that would have been looking for spots at Gulfstream going across the state to run at Tampa because they can find those races. So honestly, I think Gulfstream adding synthetic has increased the quality of some of those Tampa races. Now, I mean, obviously Tampa still has the dregs of racing at times where there are some very low-end claimers, but there are some maiden special weight stuff where you get some decent horses in. So I think you have to pick and choose. We can bash Tampa. I have no problem doing that. I think for the most part that stat does make sense. It's just there's been some changes, and you have to be look at it through a slightly different lens now.
All right, one last question, since we're beating this race to death.
We haven't talked about the one other horse I like either. So,
hold on. You can talk about Dynamic One in a minute.
Okay.
but can the 7 run without Lasix?
That is the question, isn't it?
The only horse in here that's proven that can run without Lasix is the 2 and the 6. I said it. There's a reason why I picked 2 and the 6 because so
I
far,
was say Warrant Sen I need a handicap was pretty decent with no Lasix.
yes, against
didn't
Express Train
win.
and Stiletto Boy, yeah, but
Okay, you have a point. But
I mean, I don't really care about that as much as other people. I mean, if you repeatedly show me you can't run without it, then okay, maybe I'll care more. But one start with a first-time starter for a barn that doesn't win first time out off Lasix, I mean,
and it's just
maybe
a
that's
conversation piece, right?
Yeah, I mean,
it's something to talk about.
It is. You know, for me, it doesn't change my opinion, but yeah, I mean, for others, it may sway you a little bit more.
Go ahead.
Yeah, the only other horse I thought was interesting here was Dynamic One. Pletcher's been running pretty well at Keeneland. This is a horse that's a head short of being 3 for 3 at the distance, and I realized that head was too scalding, but over fast versus good, and I think there's a little bit more pace in this race than there might have been necessarily in that Challenger, and might set him up a little better. So and there's also a little bit of chance that did he need one after that long layoff? He was off from August to August of 2021 until March. So did he potentially need one? And he's takes a little step forward here. I don't think he needs to take much step forward to be a major player here. I realize his run style is sort of that one big run closer, and sometimes and they don't get there. But I thought he was a little interesting, given the connections all around.
I'd love to see Dynamic One's head if it makes up 2.5 lengths.
Wait a second. Am I looking at the wrong race? I'm sorry. I'm looking at the wrong race. My bad.
Well, that's
your other points, though, I think are valid. I think he
I said a mile and eighth. Yeah, the mile and eighth would have been the Wood, not the Challenger. My bad.
No, it's all. I mean, I think he does fit a little bit, but at 4 to 1, I don't want him.
Yeah. Okay. Cool.
Back class. I said it.
Look at all that back class. Anyone else we need to talk about in here?
We talked about all 9 of them. I think
we talked about them all.
Yeah, we basically talked this one to death.
What price? I'm just curious. What price do you think Warren goes off at?
7 to 5.
I was going to say 6 to 5. I think
6 to 5
for short.
Yeah, even money 6 to 5. Yeah.
I mean, since we have a second here, the 5 is going to be singled in how many pick 5s?
A lot.
So if you can beat the 5 here, okay, let me play contrarian. If you can find any reason you don't like the 5 and you go 4 deep in this leg and single somewhere else, right? You're going to get paid handsomely, and you may lose, but if you're right, you're going to get paid really well. Because I bet you 40% of the tickets will be single through this 5.
Yeah, I would agree with you. I think there's a massive game theory play here, which is you toss Warrant, because if you can pick apart Warrant, all the more power to you, and you go some other direction, or again, like Brian said, you even spread 4 or 5 deep in here, get all the other logicals. I think that. I think that's a very smart play. I don't hate it at all, Brian. Cool.
You called me smart twice today. You know what,
dude?
I'm gonna take you to Chuck E. Cheese. You're getting Chuck E. Cheese this weekend.
Yeah, you get really concerned when I start calling you skinny. Okay.
Okay.
So here it comes, Eric, and here it comes. The 1.5 mile Grade 2 Elkhorn.
Look at that.
Oh, look at this. All of Caleb's friends are in here.
Caleb, get closer. Get closer, Caleb.
All of them.
Oh yeah.
I think can I make it bigger? Wait, can I make Caleb big? Wait, hold on. How do I do this? I wish I was better at running this thing. Wait, can I make Caleb? Can I?
You could have just stopped it. I wish I was better.
Yeah, I know. I wish I was better.
There is a way, I couldn't tell.
I'm sure there's a way, but Josh is not here, so I don't know how to do it. So
I miss you, Josh. I miss you,
Caleb,
Josh.
On Saturday, tell me, how does Channel Maker hurt you?
Oh my God, in ways that I can't even begin to imagine.
If he gets beat by Channel Maker while wearing the Channel Maker hat,
if Channel Maker beats me, I might just never take the hat off. I think. Oh my Lord.
Speaking of hats, sorry.
I mean, well, first off, we have to give homage to Josh, who I like 2 Emmy series, a 3 cherry special, and he makes the lead and wires the field. All right, so we covered Josh's pick. So moving forward, boy, doesn't it feel like there's a lot of speed in here for a turf marathon? And
Dude,
don't you just
it
know when it
does.
feels like there's a lot of speed that somebody's going to go like 52 to the half and wire? Like, it just doesn't. That's just how it works in these races, isn't it?
Yes, you
Yes.
would expect the 4 and the 2 to get into a pace battle here, right? I mean,
and then even Channel Maker's
The
no
three.
slouch, and I mean,
The
you
three
could
and the
even
four.
argue that a horse like Tiberius Mercurius wants to be forwardly placed. So I mean, it feels like it has to melt. So somebody's going to wire.
And that's not going to be Channel Maker. Is that what we're going with?
I'm just
Well,
glad.
Yeah, I'll admit, I thought Channel Maker ran a hell of a race at Del Mar. I mean, he has a brutal post position. He was not part of a, because he was kind of sitting 5 lengths off, but he was the only horse that didn't come from 10 or 12 lengths off that stuck around for the end of the race. He was the best of the American finishers by far. I thought he ran a great race, but from a racing flow perspective, it sort of feels like he's up against it here. I mean, he's sort of lost a step truthfully, since 2020. And there's a lot of other speed in here. It just kind of makes you scratch your head. I mean, I agree with Road Warrior. I mean, hasn't this horse kind of done enough? I mean, he's made you $3.5 million.
Well, he didn't invest properly in his Roth IRA, so he has to keep running until he's 9.
I guess that is. I mean, he doesn't have it for retirement. He's a gelding, so he's not going to be covering any mares, I suppose. But
there's no children to take care of him as he ages.
I'm honestly quite happy he will be covering no mares. I can't imagine the first crop of Channel Makers. That just makes me shudder.
I think of all the awesome names, though. I mean, I could get down on some Channel Maker babies.
How many horses with the name Channel in them would we? I mean, there's been enough of them already.
Right.
Not enough. I want a Jakarta Channel.
Jakarta Channel. Oh God.
Jack Channel for short.
Jack Josh Channel? Have to go in and claim that horse.
Then Murphy's gonna come in and be like, "Hey, I own 10% of that horse."
Man.
I mean, yeah. So where did you guys end up? Because my opinions here are well known.
I'm fairly spready in here. I mean, I think there's a couple of horses in here that made sense. I thought 2 Emmys, the Josh horse, made a bit of sense. He's one of the horses at least shown he can get this distance in this field. I realized, he didn't win in the Sycamore, but he, he was a very game second to Spooky Channel. I thought somebody like Phantom Current fair bit of sense, has a win across the surface. Question is, can he go this far? And I thought, Channel Maker did make some sense in here, but it's Channel Maker and he hasn't won since, I don't know, 2020. And, I really think kind of Channel Maker's best days are behind him. And, maybe he catches us off in the field in here. He is one of the few in here that can get this distance. He's super usable, but man, there are people that are going to single him in horizontals, and I would definitely not be one of them. I think you're a little crazy to get aggressive behind Channel Maker here when there's a lot of questions to be had about him.
So that brings me to the next point. Channel Maker's a stone cold single.
Shall I send you the hat?
I don't know how you.
So you're gonna play a Channel Maker over all exacta.
Channel Maker overall exacta for $1.
Yeah. Well, you better play it back for $1 too in case you run second.
Then I'll play it back for $4 each way. All plus Channel Maker for $4. If it pays $8, I'll only lose 24. But make sure to subscribe to Equibase.
Yeah. Are you actually singing Channel Maker?
I think so. I think in this spot, this is the softest spot that Channel Maker's had in a long, long time. And I'm not just saying this because you're wearing the hat. You look at who this horse is, raced against historically. Look at just the fall last year. Rock Emperor, Serve the King, Gufo. Yeah, I beat
You lost me at Rock Emperor.
I know I did. Cross Border, and going all the way back to Dubai, that Miss Shreve horse, the Channel Maker here, this is the lightest class competition Channel Maker's had in a long time. And if you look at the way this horse is ran, the horse doesn't need to run, what do you got there on DRF? A 98. Horse doesn't need to run a 98 or a 103 to win against this field. This horse comes out and runs on DRF runs a solid 94, could probably win this. The only question I have is going to be the 4 Phantom Currency. I think Irad and Brian Lynch are going to be interesting. This horse is 7 for 15 lifetime, which is huge, 50% at Keeneland. But at this distance, the horse has won one time or raced one time and wasn't even in the money. So this might be a little far for Phantom Currency. Wouldn't expect me to fade or expect him to fade a little bit. Wouldn't surprise me if Irad tries to take this horse back, maybe sit 2 or 3 lengths back. And if that happens, Channel Maker may be low in speed here. Then that's all she wrote.
So if the 3 other dead need to lead types take back, Channel Maker becomes low in speed. Is that the logic here?
That's the logic.
Channel Maker is the best horse in the field. I wouldn't disagree with you there, but I think he needs to sit if he's going to win, or have to force some other jocks to take tactics that aren't probably optimal for their horse.
How many times we had this conversation? We talk about all these need to lead horses.
Oh, I know. Trust me, I know.
In a marathon race, the 6s never ran this distance. So is the 6 going to come out and be a need to lead horse at this distance? I don't know. I don't think so. Not with Tyler aboard. Mike Maker puts Tyler aboard here. I think they're going to try some tactics with the 6.
Yeah, Jay. I think
your boy Jay likes the 6. Yeah.
I think the 6 Bud Light here. Oh, Tiberius Mercurius, or did he move on already?
I think he says he needs 6 Bud Lights to actually bet this race.
Oh. Probably right. But that's my whole point is we see all this speed that's signed on, but none of these horses other than Channel Maker have ran this distance. So you don't know what tactics are going to come out or what instructions are going to be. There's a big step up going from a mile and an 1/8 to a mile and a half. So I'm not sure if Phantom Currency can get there. You look at 2 back at a mile and 3/8, it was rail headed, re-cleared, and that was with Paco. But what was actually there, who knows? The horse is ahead by 3 at a moderate pace, So if Channel Maker or whoever pushes the moderate pace here, I don't know. I think Channel Maker's in we're a family show, so I can't say it, but it's a butthole single.
So Caleb in here being the stream's biggest Channel Maker fan. What do we get for odds here? Charles B wants to know.
I don't think he's going to be short, like not short. Look at his last handful of races. He hasn't even been the favorite in his last 10 races. He's never been shorter than 5-2.
That's not true. Mark's at least 5'5".
So I don't think if you want to single him, I don't think he's going to be 6-5 or 3-2 or anything like that. I think he probably goes off in the 2-1, 5-2 range. I'd be surprised if he drifts up too much more than that, just because this is a bit of a soft field. But, I think you get a fair enough price that if you believe his figures and you believe the class he comes in here with, and you still think he is the horse that he used to be, or some semblance of it, then I think you get a fair bet to take on him here. For me, I'm going to go for closers. As much as I know that we get Naira specialed in these turf marathons so often, where all the speed doesn't go when somebody wires, I can't bring myself to bet a speed horse when there's, in my opinion, a lot of speed on it here. So I landed on the 1, Bemo's Boy. This horse is always kind of precious to me and near and dear to my heart, because this is the horse that I beat Zulu Alpha with after like a year of trying. So, this horse will always be special to me. But there's more to it than that. I think this horse is getting his 3rd start off the layoff. He did subtly improve from that first start to the 2nd start off. So he should be sitting on an improved effort here, and arguably, a new top or pairing a previous top. I thought that race against Zulu Alpha was excellent. That was Zulu Alpha in his prime, and Bemo's Boy ended up beating him at Gulfstream. And he is probably the only horse in here, besides maybe Channel Maker, that actually really wants a 1.5 miles. He's got 3 starts here at this distance, 2 wins in a second. He's showed up at Keeneland before. He has a win at this distance over this course a couple of years ago. The Mike Maker barn is firing pretty well, and Rispoli hasn't been totally on fire yet, but I do think that he just hasn't had the best mounts either. So I think Bemo's Boy makes a lot of sense here and could be set on a big race.
Yeah, I was gonna say for me, I'm not somebody that takes big price tournament plays. Bema's Boy in here would be my tournament play, just on the fact that I think Rispoli really should fit this horse well with Rispoli's sort of how Rispoli likes to manage a horse. Horses also never miss the exact at this distance. Again, that win at the Keeneland going 12 furlongs is a pretty impressive one. And if you watch Mike Maker, Maker is somebody who will, I don't know, he has some interesting jock choices. But if you watched him last year at Kentucky Downs, he used my Rispoli, and I think a couple of Rispoli's wins were on Mike Maker horses. Maker will tend to go to a local hot jock. So, or I shouldn't say a local hot jock; it's the wrong way to put it, but a jock who might travel, who he likes as a fit. So, I think Bema's Boy is actually a very interesting horse in the spot.
Redirect, Your Honor.
Redirect? Okay. I'll give you closing thoughts here.
Solo Volante, Julian Le Paru.
If I don't think I could bet that horse at 100-1 in here.
Okay, so if you're watching, this is a single. This is a horse Mark will not use defensively.
Would you bet it if Corrales was on?
Yeah, probably I would bet it if Corrales was on it. Yeah, I probably would. That's probably true. I would gladly own up to that. Yeah, I probably would.
I just wanted to sing the horse's name with the jockey, and it has a great flow to it.
I just don't think Solo Volante wants. I think Solo Volante is actually a somewhat talented horse. I just don't think he wants to go this far. I think this is just way beyond what he wants to do. And I think some of these older horses end up getting in these marathon distances because they've sort of run out of other options that they really want to do. And this is, sort of, we've run out of things we can do with him. Well, let's turf marathon. That's quote unquote soft division. I think that's where they've landed with Solo Volante here.
Solo Volante should be, 7 furlongs, maybe a mile. That'd be the right length for this horse.
I mean, Biancone's on record saying he thinks this horse wants as much ground as he can get. I don't know that I necessarily see it looking at those running lines, but I think he's not in the right class level. I think he's an allowance horse who's cleared conditions. So at this point, you either put him in for a tag or maybe you drop him in some cheap stakes races, but a race like this is just not the right spot.
Yeah, if they ran marathons at 40,000 optional claiming, this horse cleans up all day long.
Oh, they do it Colonial, so that's probably what he'll be this summer.
Charles B talked about any love for the 8 Bama Breeze, and I kind of draw attention to that because that is a horse that I have marked down as kind of like a wild card in here.
CJL.
It is, one of the hottest jockeys at Keeneland right now, and I don't say that sarcastically, Corey Lannery. But, he's got some good races. I mean, his race, at Keeneland 2-back was good at this distance. I mean, his Kentucky Downs race was excellent, but he's a hard horse for me to figure out. So I don't know what to do with him, and I'll just leave it at that. I mean, I do think he's a closer, and I think he fits the race flow, but I'm not sure that he loves this distance necessarily, so I guess we just have to wait and see.
Sorry, go ahead.
I was just saying that's my big thing with him is, I was looking for horses, especially these marathons, that can get the distance, and I just don't think he wants to go this far. He doesn't have the pedigree, top or bottom, to really say that he wants to go this far. And the one time, they've tried it a couple of times, and I mean, there's Spooky Channel is in here, but he got beat by 6 1/4 by Spooky Channels and 2 Emmys. Like, I just don't think he wants to go this far. And I mean, maybe there's enough speed and a turf marathon somewhat comes apart and he can pick up the pieces, but I think this is both too classy and too far for him. Bri, anything else? Are you done?
I don't want my favorite jockey in a closer.
That's yes. Cool. And into the daymaker race here, get out of jail card race, whatever you want to call it. The last here in this pick 5 sequence, going 7 furlongs, optional 80. Caleb, you hadn't let off. How about it?
Yeah. So I already know who you're going to bet, so I'm not going to talk about it. But for my, this wouldn't be my $50, got to hit the bet kind of a play, but a horse I really liked in here at a nice price, and I think you'll get every bit of it, is the number 8, Slim Slow Slider. And I did say that slow because I've had a bourbon and it's a tongue twister.
They used to call me in high school.
So Slim Slow Slider, I mean, I think that there's a couple things that you're gonna have to look at here. I mean, the class is a big question mark, right? I mean, he kind of broke his maiden at the basement at Turfway. He got claimed out of that from Wesley Ward. But I think that ever since that claim, I mean, believe it or not, Ray Hernandez has improved this horse off of Wesley Ward. I mean, there's no really two ways about it. He kind of ran an even claiming race. They put him in an allowance race where he ran okay. And then they came back in that listed stakes at Turfway, and I thought he ran a really strong race there. I mean, it says rough first turn in the comment. I mean, this horse hopped out of the gate. He checked off the heels going into the first turn. He was wide. And then he makes this big, premature kind of middle move to take over the lead in a race that was absolutely dominated by closers. So he actually kind of takes over turning for home and then just kind of gets caught late because he moved a little bit too early. I think the cutback here makes a lot of sense. I really thought he's better off probably as like a one-turn miler. I think 7 furlongs is fine. There's the dirt question, which I think is fair, but I think that kind of is built into the price here, and I think that you will get every bit of 12-1. So, yeah, I think Slim Slow Slider is a horse coming out of some trouble, coming out of a race that probably won't get enough respect compared to what it deserves. And looking at speed figures in here, I mean, he's not the fastest horse in the race. I mean, there's no question about it. But he's improved in pretty much every start. I mean, especially every start since going into the Ray Hernandez barn. And I think he, gets a good kind of off-the-pace trip. We said speed hasn't been amazing on the dirt, so I think he kind of gets an off-the-pace trip here. And that's the price horse I'm most excited about of the races that we've covered.
Yeah, so Caleb, I think, thought I was going to go one way, and I'm going to go a completely different way on him here. No, I'm not going with the Corrales.
That's what I thought he was going to go for.
No, I knew that's what you thought. That's why I'm going a different direction.
Well, there's too many numbers in this morning line, so Mark can't bet that. It has 3 numbers.
Yeah, no, I can't. True. I can't bet that. So actually, this would be my $50 win bet horse, the 5 Red Label. This is a horse that the last 2 were clearly on the wrong surface. And if you go 3 back to that Churchill race from November, that race actually fits really well in here. And horse is 2 for 4 at the distance. And I figure that morning line is probably just really horrible. But I thought Red Label in here was absolutely super, super interesting. You're getting back to dirt, Figs Fit, huge price. It's a kind of a tournament special sort of a play. This is one that, hits and you're getting your capper and you're going to win things. But that was a horse that I sort of landed on in a race that, I don't know, I thought you could go a million different ways in.
I agree. The morning line of that horse is way off. 20-1 is too low. I mean, 35-1, I'm all about that horse. 40-1, 51, yep. 20-1. I mean, they got Captain Jack Sparrow riding. I don't know.
50%. He's 1 for 2.
He's betting a higher average than you are, brother.
That's a low bar, though.
Man, yeah. I can't believe that's where you went. I'm sorry.
No,
you could have probably let me guess every horse in this race, and that might be the first one.
Last one.
Mark's not going to have this horse.
Yeah, there's no way.
That being said, I don't despise the horse. I mean, I think the horse is a little bit interesting at 20-1, but making that a $50 best bet of the weekend is probably not the way I would approach it.
Well, I don't know. I guess I was taking more the profitability on my. If I'm going to place a $50 spot bet, not sort of the most likely winner. I was playing it more along the lines of value play, right?
Sure.
Tournament play, value play, but kind of an angle.
Most people value play for a $5 win bet. Mark, take the 0 off the. Come on. Red Label.
Go big or go home,
Brian is so thrown by that. He's forgot who he even liked.
There's supposed to be a chalky horse. Mud picks chalky horses. To come up with this horse. I mean, the horse lost legendary Larry last time out. That one just
on the wrong surface.
And it's hard for me to bash a 21, right? I'm usually the guy that's looking for a price horse. So for me to be so shocked by your love for that horse by Herbie Hancock Stables, it just blows my mind. But all right.
So I mean, I guess, Brian, let me know where you ended up, but it sounds like none of us are particularly enthused with the favorites here.
No, I think the 3 and the 1 get you home.
Oh, you do like the favorites here?
You really think the favorites get you home?
I do think so. I wanted to make an argument for the 2. I think the morning line, the 2 is a little short. If you look what the 2 did, the 2-1 at 5.5 furlongs comes back to 7 now. Gets Johnny V. Right now at this point in the career, going from Bashiza to Johnny V does not excite me. And I just say that because this race means nothing to Johnny V. It's an 80,000 optional claimer. Horses in for a tag. If you get a young jock in the last race of the day, I'd be more excited. So, I could understand if you took the 5 for that reason, But at the same point, I say that, and then I kind of want to fade the 3 because I rad in the last race of the day. But you look at what this horse did last out in Sloppy at 6 furlongs and made in 60. Vasquez got this horse home in a nice race. He tracked the whole wide. He was 3 wide in the stretch. He came up. He drew clear, galloped out beautifully. The move up in class here. I mean, horse just lost the condition, so no surprise. But he's not in for the tag here, so that tells you that at the very least, Purple Haze and Teresa Pompey like this horse enough to not run the tag. This is one of those horses where if you didn't like him at Gulfstream, then you get rid of him here at Keeneland for a tag, and somebody's probably going to pick him up because of that last out win. But with that being said, I had a hard time. I sat down and said, okay, who's the leader? Now, I think Momentous 1A, coming out of the outside hole is very interesting, but I hate the post position. I would love to be all about Momentous here. That the Todd Pletcher barn's 20%, Saez is 15%. The horse ran one time at Fairgrounds, 6 furlongs, won by a head, and that's the kind of horse, the Pletcher barn's firing well. So I think you could probably go 1 and 3 here and get done. If I was to take a price, because that's what I normally do, man, I'm hard pressed. I mean, I'd like a little bit of the 9 at 7-2 feels short for this field. That race last out at Oaklawn Park, 6 furlongs, optional 100. So do you say, okay, the horse is getting a little bit of class relief, gets Flavy in the board instead of Cabrera, going to be better, well placed. Horse is 3 for 3 in the money. I mean, do I really want to take 3 low-priced horses? I don't, but I think they're probably going to be the best. I said it. I'm sorry.
Mark, I think you can pass your torch as the chalk eating weasel. To
Chalk eater
Brian
over to Brian. Yeah. No. I mean, and I guess I know Brian is loving on the 1 and the 3, but the reason that I sort of went someplace else and I ended up with a horse that I was a B and I think is quite a price. I really wonder, was Unikey the 3 kind of really flattered by the sloppy going last out at Gulfstream?
Right.
Horse has pretty high Tomlinsons, and that's a massive improvement going from a 79 to a 90 buyer. Is a real big move up. Trainer doesn't really have great, awful wins. Winner last start's fairly okay. The 31 to 60 is just not. So it's just a horse that I don't know. I think the horse can take a ton of money because of a rad, and it's going to be overbet just on jockey. But I don't know. It just didn't feel like. It felt like that figure is really, really dressed up. And the one Great Escape, I was a little bit interesting, coming out of the stakes might have just not handled the synth, but has a pedigree that said should have probably run better in that race. I mean, they let this one go at 18 to 1 or something. So they didn't think very highly of this one. My issue is just sort of this. It feels like they're trying a little bit of everything with this one. They obviously they think they have something, but they can't quite figure it out. Now they're taking a big step back in class to this optional 80 level. It just doesn't feel like. I don't know. Something just feels a little suspect with this one. I just didn't really love it, and it just didn't get me all warm and fuzzy to bet a 4 to 1 here. Although you're getting Gaff, and he's been riding very, very well here, at this meet. And so I just kind of wanted to go someplace else. I wanted to go to an outsider, to a horse that, I thought had some, had some dirtied up for him and might have some upside potential. Where'd you land, Caleb?
Yeah, so I already talked about the 8 who I liked in here, and then the chalks I sort of feel similar to you, Mark. I don't like either of the ones; they can beat me.
Yeah,
the 3 I haven't decided what to do with. The slot figure kind of scares me, but even his maiden first time start was good, so he might make a ticket. I agree with Brian. I think the 9 makes a lot of sense. I'm not against him, but the horse that I thought Mark was going to land on, who I like that he didn't talk about, was the 10.
Yeah, I do
Legendary
like the 10 a
Lore.
little. Yeah.
I mean, this is a horse that absolutely fits on pretty much any set of metrics you want to look at. I mean, the horse handles the dirt. I mean, he has a win going this distance at Churchill Downs. They put him, up against a mile a couple times, mile and a 16th, and didn't totally respond. But this horse just, I mean, I'm not going to overcomplicate it. He fits on figures. I mean, you look at the connections. Corrales is just riding unbelievable, and he's not doing it with Todd Pletcher, Chad Brown kind of monsters. He's doing it on horses that do not look good on paper. He's according to Time Form, I mean, he's 9 for 19 riding for Bill Morey in the last year, so 42%. This horse gets all the bells and whistles. He's first time gelding. Blinkers are coming off here. And the synthetic form, while not necessarily probably as good as his dirt race, was still good. I mean, his race 3 back, he was beating a length to Tawny Port, who just blew the doors off the Lexington field. I mean, was that a particularly strong race? I mean, no, but it's still a hell of a lot better than this optional 80. And then, he ran a good third again in that optional 50 after that before just getting a troubled trip in the Jeff Battaglia Stakes. I mean, they finally quit chasing synthetic here, get him back on dirt. And I think this horse just makes a ton of sense. This is not a horse I would ever let beat me at 10-1.
Tawny Port was like the senior running back playing against the freshman football team. And that race was the list of has-beens, wannabes. We'll see half those horses at Hawthorne later this year.
Yeah, no, I will say I do like the 10 Legendary Lore a fair bit. Obviously, this horse has no pedigree to say he would handle synthetic going, and they ran 3 races, so he's the definition of dirtied up form. And yeah, all the bells and whistles here. You're getting gelding, the blinks come off, and jock trainer of 41%. Corrales is riding this type of horse absolutely phenomenal. I mean, he's 6 for 22, so he's 27% on the meet so far, and his average win price has got to be about $15 or something. I mean, he's getting these 20 and 30 to 1 horses home, which is just insanity. He's not, again, like Caleb said, he's not winning the Arad 3 to 1. So I think the 10 Legendary Lore makes a ton of sense. And I think I would be more interested in the 10 than somebody like the 1 or the 3.
Somebody want to break the news to Sixer about the 4 coming from Tampa?
Yeah, Sixer, Tampa shippers just don't do so well doing that, unless their name's Cheryl Spite.
In all fairness, though, bet Mitch, get rich. He's normally riding well. I'm not going to lie. He's probably below a career average right now. He's not riding very well, but he's also getting some mounts that he normally wouldn't get.
Yep.
So
Colony's tougher this year than it has been the past few years. You have a lot of jocks who normally don't come in. Pratt's been here the whole meet. That's not a normal thing.
Yeah, but Mitch normally used to ride for Chris Davis up here at Arlington. So no surprise, the trainer knows the jockey, whether or not they have a relationship or he wants something. And this horse ran well with Sophie Sanger. The normal Midwest B grade jocks. Do I say that? Is that a thing? I don't know. They're not the Kentucky Derby jocks, but I've got a lot of love for Sophie. She gets a lot of prices home when she's riding in the Midwest. So does Santos. So it's one of those things where Mitch can blow the board up at the right price. 4 to 1. This horse might be a little light. If this horse floats up to 7 to 1, I want every bit of the 4 here.
So Sixer's got a fairly valid point here, and that it was that Tampa race just a prep race. Obviously that's not the distance that this horse does not want to do 5.5. Right. And were they just looking to, hey, we need to get a race on this horse off the layoff, which is a fairly long layoff, and then we're pointing towards Keeneland. Yeah, I don't hate that angle. I think that's the kind of, that's a fairly smart play, and that's a fairly smart approach here. If you're getting around the 1 and the 3 and you're saying, hey, here's a horse that I can see where they were the planning and the strategy here. Yeah, I don't hate that at all.
And you look at who the horse lost to back. I mean, 2 of those horses used to be Derby favorites.
I mean, let's not pretend like the Breeders' Cup Juvenile and the Iroquois were good races because they're awful. No,
in hindsight, they were
negative key race type of races.
Whoa,
I need 12 to 1 in Nebraska personally, but I agree with Sixer's angle that the horse should improve and could be sitting on a nice race, but the price is not there for me at 4 to 1.
I'm trying to think. The only other horse, okay. I think we already talked about it. We talked about the 9, right? Okay, cool. So nothing else here. Led over. We are going to talk about, unless you guys didn't have anything else, did you? After I've already flipped off it. Okay, cool.
We're done with Keeneland now.
We're done with Keeneland.
I'm closing it.
No more of that silly Keenelandness. So the Apple Blossom did not come up that great. So we're gonna just skip right over that, and we're gonna talk about the Oaklawn Handicap, 1.125 miles at Oaklawn, $1 million purse. I went through this race, and I think the first thing that popped into my head is this really the best we can do for a handicap division? Like, is there really no one else better than this in the handicap division? Not that any horses, a lot of hard knocking horses in here, some horses that have run some real nice races, but there's really no monsters in here. Race came up super tough. I think it's really interesting. I think Plainsman the 6 is your morning line favorite. Brian, what did you? Is it the 8? Sorry, Fearless at 9-5. I'm sorry. Yeah, Fearless is 9-5. Brian, where'd you sort of land in here? What were you thinking?
I've got a soft spot for Rated X Superstar.
Yeah,
I do like that horse. We if you recall last out, we as a stream were collectively on that horse. Caleb followed Jared, and then I followed Caleb. So it was a pretty good win for us to stream. But it's one of those races where I think this race might be a little much for Rated R Superstar to be able to win. There's not a lot of pace signed on here. That's my take. I mean, looking at Briz, Plainsman, Thomas Shelby might be the two leaders in the clubhouse, if you will. And I think Plainsman has the edge there. It wouldn't surprise me. I think Plainsman's 2.5, 5 to 2 in the morning line. That's probably a pretty fair price. I'd love to make an argument for Beau Luminaire at the 12 to 1 morning line, but man, I have a hard time getting a closer home in this field. I think I want to be fourthly placed, and I haven't played a lot of Oaklawn, so if there's a bias, feel free to tap me out here, guys. But I think I like Plainsman at this point.
Yeah, I don't have anything creative to say here. My only kind of opinion is I don't really like anybody coming out of the Essex or the Razorback. I mean, this feels like the dirt turf version of the turf marathon horses, where they just take turns beating each other. I was on Rated R Superstar. I think a few of us were last time after a subtle bad trip in the Razorback, and he rewarded me at a nice price. Made some money that day. If I was going to take anybody out of that race, it would be him. I think the race sets up kind of the same way as the previous. I mean, it looks like Thomas Shelby and Plainsman both kind of go. They both sort of duel for the lead, and then somebody kind of swoops in and gets them late. But instead of Rated R Superstar, I do think Fearless is kind of the horse to beat here. It's not creative, it's not sexy, but he would be 4 for his last 4 if he didn't run into Speaker's Corner, who is arguably one of the best older horses in training right now. Almost certainly the best one-turn miler right now, depending what Life is Good decides to do. So, really no shame in those losses. He crushed the fields where he wasn't against Speaker's Corner. And I just think this horse, he's just too good for this field, I think. I don't think there's a whole lot else that I really want to say other than, I think that he has the class edge, the figs edge, and he probably, is just a little better than Rated R Superstar when they're going to get a pretty similar trip.
Yeah, I kind of was against Fearless here. And no real solid reason other than he doesn't have, he's over 2 at Oaklawn, and, Jose comes in for this mount instead of Saez coming in. Imagine if he's really cranked and ready to go, that Saez would have flown in. It's a big money race. It's $1 million race. Why wouldn't Saez come in here? I sort of wanted to go other places. I think we've sort of mentioned some of those horses. I thought Thomas Shelby made a lot of sense. Horse that likes this distance, likes Oaklawn. Somebody like an Idol makes some sense. Don't hate Idol here. I know I think Jay had actually mentioned Idol in here as well, saying that that's where he would land with his $50 fictitious bet. I thought Rated R Superstar made a ton of sense in here, and I also thought Plainsman sort of made some sense in here. So I guess I'm playing the game of tossing the favorite and and trying to spread a little bit and find a bit of a price. So I will probably end up putting Fearless right in the winner's circle, but that's how I ended up seeing it. And I wanted to try to get around him. I thought this race is also a race that I didn't think from the best horse was a huge spread. I thought these were all somewhat similar. Yeah, there's some quality differences in there, and there's some pace scenarios that come into play that definitely do move up some horses. But I thought that this was the kind of race where I want to go looking for a price, because it's not like I didn't feel. I think in opposite to what Caleb said, I didn't feel that Fearless really towered over this field. I didn't think he was just that much better in any in any real measurable way than some of the rest.
Can Thomas Shelby go wire to wire? I say no.
Yep.
No.
You don't think so?
No.
I mean, he hasn't been able to do it his last 4 times against the same field.
At shorter distances.
Yeah.
Now it comes to a mile and an eighth. There's no change here. I think sets honest fractions. I think the 47.5 makes a lot of sense. And if you see a 47 flat, you might be able to get rated R Superstar home. But I'm a little concerned that it doesn't go that fast. But
I do think that Jay's point is pretty interesting with Idol. That's the only horse in here I didn't know what to do with. He's a tough call, because it's true. I mean, a couple, over half of his races probably do win this. I mean, he came out and ran pretty awful in the Awesome Again, and now he's disappeared for another 6 or 8 months. I mean, Baltus is on the record saying the Awesome Again is not really, he's going to need a race, but the fact he disappears again after that, I mean, you don't really give a horse a race, then lay him up again. And I'm just not really sure. I'm always a skeptic of the West Coast figures here. I'm not really sure that this horse may not need a race. Both of his all of his wins have come after he's been given a couple races. His races off layoffs have not really been that good. His first start of his career and then that last start. So I'll be inclined to probably watch one here, but it would be a price play for me. If you get 6-1, I think that's completely fair. If he gets bet down to 7-2 or 4-1, you're starting to get a little bit short for me.
Yeah, that was sort of my take. I liked Idol, and I think he does make some sense, and he fits here on some of his races. I have a feeling he takes a little bit too much money. I think you do get closer to that 4-1 sort of range on him, and at that price, I would rather go someplace else. But I don't hate the play at all, Caleb.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting, Mark. You mentioned on the 8th Fearless that Jose's in town. Luis only has 3 mounts in Keeneland on Saturday. So I'm not
Luis
sure.
has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He has 8 mounts at the Keeneland on Saturday.
Hold on.
Races 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 7, 9, and 10.
Dude, I just went through there. Was there an update? One?
I'm just going off what Brisnet says at the bottom of the page.
Okay, then I might count the wrong thing. Sorry. Yeah, for whatever reason, when I just went through and looked for him, I couldn't find him.
But I guess the thing you get into is that he wins this one race and he probably makes more than he does in an entire day if he wins every one of his mounts at Keeneland. So
thanks, Caleb.
Yeah, but I mean, if that is the case, he does have that many mounts. There's also that you always get that thing where you don't really know the inside. Is he riding a mount for a certain trainer or certain connections that he rides a bunch for and is keeping them happy, and then therefore decide to stay?
But the feature at Keeneland is a Todd Pletcher horse he's on too. So I mean, Pletcher has 2 entries. Do you think Pletcher kept him at Keeneland?
I mean, I'm not going to read a ton into that, but I think it's fair to question. I mean, Sias did stay, arguably for Channel Maker or for a couple of other horses in here that look good. I mean, there's more money in the Oaklawn race to be sure, but I'm not going to really lose sleep over that. But but I get your point.
I mean, he wins the Elkhorn. Joel or Luis is going to take home what, 50,000, 40,000, something like that.
I'll get something like that probably.
Yeah. So I mean, not a bad day. I mean that's what most of Americans make in a year.
Yeah, and if it turns into a situation where he is staying there to ride for certain connections, that hey, you're going to get a bunch of stakes winners or real live mounts, later on in the year. Maybe he's just managing his book that way. There's whatever. There's a number of reasons.
Hey, since Charles is still in chat, I want Charles to say that Flavian's a good jockey. Come on, Charles, give it up, buddy. Flavian came to Keeneland and he has whooped some butt. He has ridden his butt off, man. Yeah. You gotta give the man props.
I'm like the world's biggest Flavian hater, and I do have to say he has ridden phenomenally well this meet. All surfaces, done really well. I've been very, very, very impressed with him versus what is by quite a mile the best jockey calendar right now in the country. So
yeah, I'm a little disappointed how Rispoli has shipped in. Maybe he's just not getting the mounts, but I thought he would ride a little bit better.
Yeah, I mean, it's that thing of I don't think he's been getting the mounts, but we're sort of used to Rispoli, even if he doesn't get them out, still getting one or two of them home, and he just hasn't been doing that. I mean, he has been hitting the board. He's gotten a call. I think of his 8 mounts, he's gotten 2 or 3 of them in the money. But yeah, you hoped for a little better out of Pasta, and he just hasn't quite done it.
They're both going to Belmont, right?
That's what I heard. Yeah.
Yeah, I think they're both doing the Belmont and Saratoga scenes, so it's Saratoga is going to be really fun.
For those of you that can't go, Hawthorne will be fun too.
Why would anyone, willingly go to Hawthorne?
Jared Love,
unless you're, I get it. It's your local track. I get it, but beyond that, guys,
I say that, and I've been at Hoosier, Indianapolis, Horseshoe, Indiana, more times than I have been Hawthorne in the last 3 years, and Hawthorne is a 40-minute drive for me. I like Horseshoe, Indiana. You know this,
dude. There's nothing wrong with Indiana Grand. As long as you understand it is what it is, right? Like it's not. They're good days, but it's nothing wrong with.
Highlight Charles.
Nothing wrong with Little Horseshoe, Indiana.
Highlight Charles for me, would you? Come on. The Irad brothers double team everywhere, Charles. You're taking the 3 to 5 here against me, buddy. I like Charles, but I'm.
But the other thing is, Jose hasn't really been riding Keeneland. Jose has been in at the Duct most of the time.
I'm just going to give Charles an elbow drop from the top rope. He's getting it.
Oh, Jay bringing real questions, and Brian, I think you're the only one that can answer this.
Yes, Jay. I believe this week they have one carded, but it's been awfully cold up here, so I think they're a little slow in getting it in, but it should be coming soon. We have 70 up here today, but 2 days ago we had snow, so it might be a little sketchy up there, brother. Sixer, it's a great time. I mean, if you're ever in the area, it's very horse player friendly. It's just it's a good day. It's a small track, and it is what it is.
I very much would like to come out for the tournament this year. I think it's a track I've never been to, and it's a track I don't hate. So that's all good stuff.
Hey, you can go from the tournament room to the paddock in 4.5 minutes, or 3/4 of a draft beer.
Wait, is this? How about if Tommy's drinking the draft beer?
Oh, you'd have to run.
You'd have to ride? Okay, cool. Guys, I think that is it for us. If you'd like to like this stuff, you'd like to support us, hit out the description for this video. There's a link to AM Wager. I actually put up the wrong promo. They're now running one of those like deposit 250 or bet 250, get 250 kind of promos that it seems like everybody else is running. So it's better than their previous promo they were running. If you click on the link and do sign up for AM Wager, it does help us. We have some website hosting costs. We have to pay for our restream studio and some other stuff, so that does help offset all those costs. But until next time, which will be next Thursday, hopefully I didn't horribly botch the hosting duties, and good luck at the races this weekend.
Catch Mark in the Great One Gamble. Bye.